So the French use the same number system that we do. They do, however, write their numbers, some of them, a little bit differently, and then they use their hands to count just a little bit differently. So for instance, the first thing that you're going to recognize is that slash through the 7 again. And one of the reasons that you're going to need to do that slash in the French is because the 1 has a little flag on it, and it could easily be confused for a 7 if the 7 didn't have that slash on it. The other one, the number 9, almost looks like a lowercase g, and that's how I end up writing mine most of the time, just like a lowercase g, it just loops around. So when they go to count, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. You may see 3 like this. I've seen it both ways, but 1 is generally the thumbs up. So thumbs up in French is not, hey, it's great, life is good, woohoo. No, that means that you're 1. So if somebody's like, hey man, ça va? How's it going? And you go, 1, they're going to know you're American right off the bat. So this is used for counting. So repeat after me. Don't forget, these are the pronunciations. They're in the brackets. The N, especially when it is in the middle of a word, you will see a slash through it in the pronunciation. That is to help you remember that you are using that French ha ha ha, that part of the N. Now when an N starts off a word, you're going to pronounce it. It'd be almost impossible to start off a word with ha. I mean, it just doesn't work. So here we go. The green pronunciation, the blue in capital letters, and I just wrote it that way, is for the French word, French spelling, and then of course these are the numerals. So, number 1, and you can think of this like if you're getting, if somebody's got a wrong answer, or you're going so it's like, it's that, it's de, like de, actually it's de, like, oh, duh, okay, number 2. Number 3, toi. And if you look at it, it almost makes a W with your hands, so that will help you remember that this R is pronounced toi, wa, okay? And then you have cat, and it looks almost like if you think of a cat's claws, cat, and then sank. It's morbid, but 5 people sank on a boat, okay? Or there are 5 things in the kitchen sink, all right? In the South, we can get away with that. So, sank, all right? Then you have cease, and the X on the end of this word, and dies is pronounced, it rhymes with geese, okay? So you can think of either decease or 6 geese, but it's pronounced cease. Here, set, and you're going, well, wait a minute, I've seen that word. That's the beginning of the month September. And it is, back in the day, the calendar used to only have, used to not have 12 months, and September was the 7th month. And so that's where that came from, set. Then you have wheat, and you can think of 8 grains of wheat blowing in the wind, wheat. And the H in French, when it's on the beginning of a word, is either going to have almost a W type sound, like wheat, in that one, or it will just be silent, like in the word hotel. It's just almost not even there. Neuf, the number 9, neuf, and you can think of this like, if you've ever been around a whole bunch of 9-year-olds for more than about 9 minutes, then you have had enough of them. So this is neuf. And then you have the word 10, and that means 10. And the South is also referred to sometimes as Dixie. And this actually has no negative connotation at all in its originality. And that is because the South, the majority of what is now the South, was very much alive during the fur trade years, and you had the main form of currency back then. Of course, this was before paper money and all of this. I mean, we're talking like almost pre-American Revolution. And so this part of the region that is now known as the South, the main form of currency was animal skins. And the most common form of currency wasn't a beaver pelt or a rabbit pelt or a raccoon pelt. It was a deer pelt. And just like today when we say that somebody give me a buck, well, that is referring to, that most common dollar bill is referring all the way back to the time when the buck was the most common, literally a deer hide, a buck hide. And so also another popular form of currency back in that day was a 10-cent piece. And because the majority of this region was ruled by the French at that time, and the French word for 10, 10, was the main form of currency for that, or a very popular piece of currency, this region became known as the region of that 10-cent piece. And so it was called Dixie. And actually in France, you have a region of France known as Languedoc. Languedoc. And that's the original form of it. And literally what this means is the language of yes. This was the region of France, and it's in the northern region, where "oc" meant the word yes. So you knew that if you were going there, then if you wanted to say yes, you had to say "oc." Everywhere else in France, it was "oui," O-U-I. But in this particular region, it was "oc." "Oc" was the name of it, and so it became known just for that one word, just like the Dixie. So on to the next part of the numbers. You'll notice here, we start using our teens when we get to 13. 11 and 12, totally different words. But then once we start here, we just kind of almost add on that 10, teen. And so it's like 13, 14, 15. Well, in French, you don't start that until you get to 17. And our teen comes at the end. So 13, okay? But their 10 comes at the beginning. So just be aware of that. And then everything else, different words. Similar, some of them, and some of them not so much. So 11 is onze. Onze. And don't forget that O and that N sound. Onze. It's nasal. Standing in your way. Douze. Douze. And that's like you can, like if you have $12 dues that you have to pay. Douze. Treize. Treize. You can think of it, if you say it with that, accent, treize, like she carried 13 trays through the lunchroom and didn't drop a one. It's impressive. And then you have 14. Now remember that cat that we had over here for number 4? Well, by the time he gets over here, he starts shredding things. So the 14, tearing things up. 15. And you can think of this like you have 15 cans of green beans, and some old lady on her little hover around was going through the supermarket and knocked them all down, and now you've got 15 cans of green beans rolling all over the place. People following crazy. So, cans. 16. Now, when a lot of girls these days, they like to flirt. And they'll say, oh, she says she's 16, but I know she ain't 16. But she says she's 16. So you can think of it, says. And in English, we pronounce this C's, like carpe diem, seize the day. But this is says in French. Rhymes with treize, which is also why they're spelled alike. Very helpful. 17. And you're saying, okay, where did the S go? Because these are the same, I just pronounce. It's there. 17. Okay? And don't forget your 10 comes in front of it. 18. 19. And then 20. Now, 20, without the GT, just 20, that is the French word for wine. And so you can think of this once, at 21 in America, you could have some vin. That would be legal. I'm not advocating it, I'm just saying. But in France, the actual legal drinking age is 16. However, you cannot start driving a car at 16. No. You have to wait till you are past 20 to get a driver's license there. It's pretty interesting. So those are your numbers. Now don't forget, right here, when I added this 10 onto these, I hyphenated the word. And when you get further into the numbers, you're going to see many more hyphens. And you can think of this almost like in chemistry, for instance. If you wanted to show that the molecule for water, so you have 1 hydrogen, right, and 2 oxygens, and we would write that H2O, right? And then if you were to write it out in that equation, you would have to put little lines there. And those lines basically mean that all of those are chemically bonded. You cannot separate them. So this means that these are bonded together, okay? So this is 17. If this wasn't here, you would actually end up with 10 and 7. This would end up with 10 and 8. And if you look at that quickly, you're going to get 108, not 18. So you have to make sure that you have those hyphens in there so that these are, in fact, one number. All right, so go through this one more time without any interruption. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.